I've been told I'm a sore loser. I've also been told I'm a fast learner. Assigned, it means past tense. A sign noticed, then categorized. Sign, assigned is past tense. A random sorting is not assigned. If I was told there was a corner in time, would my mind think of spice with having holding a child, fine tuning my hope, mild shining of God's favor could be shown? I was oblivious to the fact that others would have cooked and eaten that child as an offering to Satan. Well, kinda. You see, Globe World told me that Satan was a lie. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. That's right. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Nope. Share the screen, Paco, you big old dummy. And then show the disclaimer. There it is. Hey, I'm disclaimed because I disagree with their finance, their religion, their medicine, their phonics. They don't know how to get hooked on phonics. Here's some pictures, some screen shots. Huh. Another 9/11, I think. Oh no, I was looking up how many Americans make it to 100 years old. Oh, okay, one 0.02%. I think that ties into how many people are born with that gender dysphoria where they're hermaphrodites. They don't know. 0.02%. On September 1885, as another sign of peace, Bismarck proposed the Pope as arbiter in a dispute with Spain about the Caroline Islands and accepted his verdict in favor of Spain in gratitude, but to the great horror of Catholics, kind of like the great horror of MAGA when, Ghislaine or Helene Maxwell is pardoned and all these other people, P. Diddy, whoever gets pardoned too, because he's one of them. World be outraged. I'm horrified. I can't believe it. Oh my goodness. He was the Bismarck, that guy in Germany, was the only Protestant ever to get some high order. Yay for those guys. Here they are playing Pope, acting like, chess, Bismarck and the Pope. You see, you want to be anti-Catholic, you say you want to be, well, liberal Protestantism, Blavatsky much, Aleister Crowley much, the German Jews and the liberals that went to communism, and it was all a plan. You've been set up. It's a setup. What? Get out of here. Was he really right about that 5 years ago when he said that they could do this? I don't. Yeah, he thinks he's right. I want to remind you, so does John Felix, that I guess you didn't really need an ID. But as of May 7th, now you really do. They could enforce those strip searches and stuff without the actual need, but now you need this. It's a real ID, not a fake ID. Have you got a fake ID or a real ID? Well, I did a post on this. You get a lot of Amber alerts, hey, there's a red SUV and it might have a disgruntled father who kidnapped his child from the mother and now we'll get him. But sometimes, like in the last 2 weeks, 50 people have gone missing and there's been no Amber Alerts. That WTF just jumped in my mind. And I was looking at something and got a screenshot of it, 8/14 this year. It's Alamosa. This is where I live. I'm there like, look at that big map. I should take a screenshot of it. Huh, that's where I live. Now, hopefully I can live over here where I want to live soon. But it's a big picture, isn't it? It's the same thing on both sides, a little bit different. You get a little bit more into where the idea of the scope of where actually this is a pretty good representation of what the Father has shown me is possible that I could have as a presbytery sometime. Man, a lot of things are going to happen before that becomes possible. And I could die because I don't even have any promises that I'm going to make it. But I do have promises that a lot of people are going to make it. So that's good. Here's a flat earth map with Jerusalem in the center. Here's another one. Because it's not the North Pole, it doesn't have anything to do with Christianity. Here's another one. Gosh, I feel like I'm about to start crying, and that's not what I wanted. That's not part of the situation I had in mind here. So, I was looking at this stuff. Now, as we're going backwards, you're seeing where I ended up. This is how I got here. I was studying how come this Weber line is so weird and that all the plants and animals on this side of the Weber line are different than all the plants and animals on this side of it. And so I wanted to see where this would be on a flat earth map. Where's Australia on this? I don't know. Where's Australia on this? They make it confusing. It's got to be this thing, or I know it's close to China. And it bumps up to the, maybe that, I don't know. Maybe that it's the Weber line that, I don't. Oh, history that we have. He's a professor. You know what he's about to say? Fill in the blank. That's because the history that we have is complete bullshit. That's what he said. He's pretty smart. So here is that, we just went through the last week was the anniversary, 80th anniversary of the fake atomic bombings, with that fake math and that fake Bismarck helping the Nazis. Oh my goodness, we can't let Japan win the war. How the atomic bomb redefined globo politics. The legacy of the bombing is all you have to worry about because nobody wants to. What happened? Here's Nagasaki or Tokyo, I think. Wait. So that's the bombed out building. This is the fake town. Give me a second. Oak Ridge, Tennessee. They all worked at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and they all had jobs. You're not going to believe it. You are not going to believe it. But as they said before, I hope I'm sharing the screen. How could so many people be involved in it? Well, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, They claimed they were building something that's impossible, a nuclear fission bomb. And they didn't know what they were doing. They had a whole town. Don't talk about your job ever. And one of the few guys interviewed that worked there during the war said that his job was every day wait for a gauge to get up to 15 pounds of pressure per square inch and then push a button and reset it and then let it pump up and go back up. And that was his whole job. And he was told after the war, your studies helped build an atomic bomb. No, they didn't. They just had him involved in a very large conspiracy to cover that it is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was the Armageddon. Here, we'll finish looking at the pictures now. See, this is what the signs that they saw every day, and it was so enforced by penalty of death. So here's Nagasaki a couple of days after the firebombing. They can clean up more than Pasadena, California, couldn't they? After that fire, didn't they? Palisade fire. My mistake. My mistake. You know, the Paradise fire. I could have said that. Those California fires with the P. What's next? Pepperdine? And here's Hiroshima, Nagasaki, same thing. They burned them down with firebombing, and their roads were cleared that week. Got to keep the wheels of progress grinding. And Tokyo, notice anything? Yeah, they found these buildings and let's build up, let's go. It was a Star Fort, baby. Well, it was built around an old Star Fort. I got something here. You know, you believe it? You're a Homo sapien? Well, if you don't, you may be on the narrow road. But if you do, they've got the wide road right where they want them. Modern intelligence is based on evolution. I've highlighted where it says whether scientists call it the Great Leap Forward, the dawn of culture, or civilization, not creation, our culture's Big Bang, civilization's Big Bang, they agree that the change was momentous, giving humans the cohesion and adaptability to expand their range. The monkey people could go into Europe, Asia, eventually Australia and Americas. In its wake, Klein said, humanity was transformed from a relatively rare and insignificant albino animal into a white geologic force, because that's when the monkeys separated and the white people said, well, we are getting that modern intelligence because we're advanced monkeys. And then all of a sudden, India and China didn't know they were yellow or something. And they became smart. So after Satan got loosed, we gave them drugs, heroin. And they loved it. No, they didn't. Not all of them. So let's see. Here we go. Now, when I wanted to get married, they said, Paco, Alan, what song are you going to play? I said, come on, get real. What other song is there when you're getting married? You know, the girl I married could play an organ like this, and as long as she had music, it didn't matter what you put in front of her, she could play it on this type of organ. That takes so much discipline, so much training. You'll never believe what those John Birch people put her through. Not that that's any excuse for how bad she did that same in trends when she tried to hurt me. She didn't realize God was on my side and that what she thought was only a joke was real. Now, frozen deep surface, hardened waters like stone. New International, when the waters become hard as stone, when the surface of the deep is frozen. They're talking about the ice wall, where the water turns to ice as hard as rock and the surface of the water freezes. The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. This is Job 38, verse 30. The waters are hid as a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Yeah, that happened. From whose womb did the ice come forth, and who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The ice wall is as hard as a rock, still, and the flat earth, the deep, it's got some frozen parts. So it would seem, and it's bound. Wait, it's appointed? Where are we going with this? It's a limit? My necessary food? A set time? The ice wall is a limit? It's statutes? Oh, it ties into where there are statutes. Somehow it has something to do that if we're going to believe as statutes, we're going to believe that that wall is like a rock. You're going to want me to believe that? What am I looking at here? It's definitely not Ezekiel 11:12. It's a boundary of the water. But it has to be hard as a rock. And it is like a light for some because we have eyes to see. Otherwise, if you don't have eyes to see, you're not going to see it. Where is it? I don't know. What? Come on.
Italian Renaissance?
What is this?
The answer lay in the buildings of Florence, where the Renaissance...
Man, I can't believe I was late to the party on studying Florence, but I guess I wasn't.
And the Renaissance was the cultural rebirth of the classical values and art.
Yeah, that's the Satan job, man.
Of ancient Rome and Greece. It lasted for around 200 years.
Okay.
You find all areas of the arts, including architecture.
They would have you believe. But they added 1,000 years to history and all that because these buildings are the same around the world, and they know it. They know it. You know it.
The Palazzo Medici Riccardi was built in 1444 for Cosimo de'
Maybe.
Medici, the head of Florence's ruling dynasty and one of the most powerful men in Italy. It's considered to be the archetypal Renaissance palace.
It's something like being in the center of the universe, because this is the place that set the rules for all the great Renaissance princes to design their houses by.
What are you doing in this town in Florence?
Right in the middle of it.
He does not have a Florence type accent at all.
In the courtyard, Jonathan is immediately struck by similarities with Wolsey's palace.
Oh, he works at Wolsey Palace. And it's the same building. And when he was he was off for the holidays.
Over the years, Jonathan has collected many strange clues like these. On
Like
their own,
what?
each may appear inconclusive.
Standing on top of what I think is Wolsey's oriel window, it's the best place to get a look at some of the eccentricities of the design.
With his architect's eye, he'd spotted tiny anomalies in the brickwork and overall design.
Anyway, long story short, it's the same exact building in Wolseley. They just took off some of the ornaments, and he's on to a man. I guess, is this all a fake construct of Satan to have the whole world believe they can go to Mars? It's okay to kill all those babies. Do it. Anyway, strawberry fields forever.
It was unlike any.
Built such a beautiful little castle here. We honor you. We'll bring the queen.
In November 1841, the Erebus and Terror again shaped a southerly course, entered the pack ice on December 18th, summer, and once more crossed the Antarctic Circle on New Year's Day. The navigation through a belt of ice 800 miles broad was extremely perilous. At length, on the 1st of February 1842, a clear sea was in sight, and they proceeded to the southward in 174 degrees 31 minutes west. On the 22nd, they were surrounded with lofty icebergs aground, and at midnight, the Great Ice Barrier was sighted, and its examination recommenced in 77 degrees 49 minutes south. Next day, the
So they're pointing out it matches some map's ice wall. I think it's Gleason.
expedition obtained a latitude of 78 degrees 10 minutes south, by far the highest ever reached before or since. After escaping imminent dangers and navigating through chains of huge icebergs, Captain Ross took his ship northward and wintered at the Falkland Islands. Third expedition. In December 1842, the expedition sailed from Port Louis on the third visit to South Polar region, seeing the first iceberg in 61 degrees south. On the 28th, the ship sighted the land named after the Prince de Joinville by Dumont d'Urville, and the south side of the South Shetlands was surveyed. During February, about 160 miles of the edge of the packs were examined. On March 11th, the Antarctic Circle was recrossed for the last time, and the expedition returned to England in September 1843. Thus, after 4 years' most diligent work, ably conducted and quite unparalleled voyage to the South Polar regions came to an end. Quote, 2 islands named Heard and McDonald were also visited on this wise. November.
Yeah, this is cool.
Command of Captain, afterwards Sir James Ross, with Captain Crozier in the Terror. The cruise for the second season was commenced from Tasmania, south of Australia between 42 and 45 degrees south latitude, in November 1840. The Auckland Islands and Campbell Islands were first visited and surveyed, and on New Year's Day, 1841, the Antarctic Circle was crossed in about 72 degrees easting. A few days afterwards, the 2 vessels were beset in the pack ice and began persevering and boring through it. By January 10th, they succeeded and were clear of ice in 70 degrees 23 minutes south, and next day land was sighted, rising in lofty peaks and covered with perennial snow. That day, Ross passed the highest latitude reached by Cook in 1773 at 7.
Yeah, I am a nerd. I'm a big fan of just going with what the Bible teaches, that it's a flat earth. So this is the castle, the Strawberry Hill thing. I just going in the order, I took a day off, I guess. I did some studying. I'm preparing. I guess I thought I could take a day off and get like big study here or whatever the Lord had in mind. 17, I was in the spirit pretty much all day. Yeah, we've seen all this before. So this is, and the Beatles like this. Everybody, it changed the world because, look what white people can do. Look what the Victorian Christians can do. They called this a sissy boy. Yeah, I read the article about it. There were a lot of people not happy with him being feminine. That's what they said. So this girl here is a picture of her in prison. She killed 3 people. That was a big deal back then. There's a better Strawberry Hill Gothic 1811 Okay, they couldn't say it's what? It's sanitarium? Anyway, it's still out a lot. So here's that Wallace line I was looking at. Where is it, man? Of like, and why are there, you know, different? It's a transitional zone between the fauna and the animals of Asia and Australia. Weird. I know. In 1571, Venice, recorded biological contrast, and everybody noticed it ever since. And it's still, when they were doing their thing, whenever those guys were, like, hey, I found the ice wall. Around the same time, they're going like, yeah, hey, this guy was right. What else were they hiding, though? They did talk about some things. The Philippines, they're different. They're different. Would love to see. I just need more maps, I guess. Give me the map. So then I looked up Mapamundi, and I think I showed you some of those pictures when I was showing the pictures. This one here was 1898. Huh. A modern reproduction. They have a lot of flat earth maps because that's what everybody believed in. So I wanted to look up this one. I thought it was cool. Yeah, I guess it's cool. Is that a good? Everything was pretty much Christ-centric. I don't know, but where's that blonde golden hair coming from? That's kind of weird. What else did we get? I looked up. Here's its map. How did I find that map at the 1881 Farm Park? Huh. What was I looking for? Oh, that same thing. So here it is, I guess. I must have it pulled up. Farm Park. Some big deal public park right now. Its budget is undisclosed. Why should they do? Why would you need to know? What are you writing a book? Farm Park. There for your viewing. It's been ecologically enhanced. It's a hybrid, like they would have you be hybrided. All right, where'd this come from? Testaque trust is a legal term that refers to the beneficiary of a trust, the individual or group. And I guess, maybe I need to take a second look of how devious their plans are. And do they really give us birth certificates, write checks in our name? And that's how come $37 trillion, which is like a mythical number, doesn't bother them at all. It may be cooking the books. Yes, trust. Well, Testaque trust holds an equitable interest in it, meaning they have the right to benefit from the trust. Essentially, the trust is the person, stop jumping the thing. What in the world? That will receive payments from the trust assets. Guess who's not? You. Ever. So don't try. This might be a waste of time. What did I look up now? Is it tied into the birth certificate? They say no. No. If you're looking for specific, it may be beneficial. Go talk to a lawyer who specializes in it, but you're not getting any help from their AI. I don't know. Maybe it's time to look at that whole why it's so important to them to blood type you, birth satisfy you, certificate you, vaccinate you, because they love you. To determine any question arising from the administration of guardianship, estate, or trust, including questions of construction or wills of other writings. Here's that thing. What, we're still doing this. This is still a thing. It sounds like it's old, but it's not. It was new in 1922. Well, wait, it wasn't new, but it was reinstated because this is all new. I hope you're enjoying this because this is important stuff to me. I really feel it is. Furthermore, thus we hold that this section as a beneficiary and potentially wrongfully removed co-trustee has standing as an interested person. Huh. You're probably an interesting person if you show any interest. I guess that makes you what did it mean? The person for whose use benefit the fee oftment was made. Okay, some middle age entitled. It's a deed, it's a title. Who else is tired of this cess? Yay. Speaking to English much? Beneficiary. It's a trust. It's a thing. Non-charitable. It's still a good perpetuity period. Hey, I was vested in a company once. Somehow it meant here's a bunch of money that wasn't on your paycheck or something, but you're vested. You get vested. It took me, like, I wasn't vested, then I was, but I was only vested 40%. But anyway, I was fully vested after a while. Taxing. What is all this stuff? Stuff you need to know. Is ignorance of the law an excuse? Yes or no? Man, this is old news. I was looking at some of this stuff from that, the steamship Arabia. They looked up this catalog to find out, oh, here's what that part is. And that Russell Irving, they also did knives. And I'm a big knife collector, and I know the Russell Green River knives, you know, they came out of nowhere and they were good bartering tools. People after the judgment of the 1,000 years couldn't get enough pocket knives, straight edge knives, because somehow they were all buried in mud, and then they were made, 1,000 years went by of relative peace, and then boom, another judgment. Put in your sickle and reap, and Satan was loosed. People still needed knives, and it's, you know, here, look at that. The Roman pocket knife that they say was, you know, like Pompeii. And here is, you know, it says a modern reconstruction, but that is a hawk-billed carpet knife that is still the pattern from today. So, you know, and if you can see, that's a rivet, and that's where the rivet for the blade goes. It is exactly the same knife. We still are using, and this knife, you know, they'll talk to you that these Opinels have not changed for 1,000 years. Well, I wonder why. The patterns are the same. We can't make Damascus like they did, but we can fake it. Buck knives in a canoe pattern. I know it's a buck knife because it shows a hammer with a buck knife and it's cutting a nail. That's a nail underneath it. So I was into pocket knives, and I was really into pocket knives and pocket because I wanted to show you how quickly it changed when it was like the spinning jenny. And then they went to, oh, we can use these rivers to make knives. And they did. Boker traces its origins to the 1600. Still one of the best knife makers out there. Claims it was producing 2,000 sabers, that's a sword, for their various They were arming the world because, you know, the 1840 thing was coming up, the 1848, the communist versus capitalist revolution, so they could spread the white people to the United States to finish off the blacks, Mexicans, Native Americans of 17,000 tribes. Who knows? They're all dead, most of them. Boker, 1600s. Cattaraugus, though, the knife that the guy took to the North Pole, who was that, Admiral Byrd? The guy that related to the John Birchers, that the guy that said, oh man, I got to have the window from the 7th floor of the Texas Depository, which is actually not a building. It is a corporation owned by the John Birchers to sell books. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. They had it, but they used these Beaver Falls, 1866. They found the old companies, they fired them up, and they pretended everything was normal because you can't make that jump from going to like, I make one knife a day to I make 3,000 an hour overnight. Hinkle's not set up. Another one from 1731, supposing it says, having been founded, the lunchbox crew hammers that home every day. They found it. They're famous for chef knives. They do make some pocket knives, and they're sharp. They're good at razor making. They're using the same machines. Anyway, they're super famous. In the mid 70s, some people were given the heads up, start collecting 1970 case pocket knives. And that today, like if you search this, let's do it live. Search it, add eBay. Go to eBay. See the original listing. Just a regular knife is $59. Put it in here, paste. Okay, so you go down to here to see what has been sold. Where is that? Go here to see, let's see what the highest price was. Wow, $21,000. Look at this one. One authentic knife got a best offer. He was asking $8,500. Well, this one you get, look at that, 8 knives for less than $1,000 a piece. Here you get 6 knives for only $1,000. It's better to buy in bulk, I guess. But then again, you don't get that big one right there, do you? Look at the blade on that. Of course, this is the fancied up version of what you saw, that hawk build one, you know. Basically the same patterns and anything, you know. Oh, you know, they know what they're going to be able to collect and say this was old. So I looked up postpartum disease wiki. You know, I had to, you know, I guess I left off reading here. Preliminary research on postpartum depression has shown that childbearing individuals who are part of LGBTQ community may be more susceptible to prenatal depression and anxiety than cisgendered and heterosexual people. Are those two different categories? I guess. Do you, I mean, do you even know what they mean? We know what hetero. Fathers can get it too with a limited evidence base, poorly understood. Poorly understood. 50% of postpartum depressive episodes began before delivery. It is in the, you know, what used to, this book, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, number 5, PPD is not recognized as a distinct condition, but rather a type of major depressive episode. Wow, and it's also new. They needed it, so they've got it. 1 to 2, 1 or maybe 2 out of 1,000 women may get it, but we pass laws assuming that it could be possible for all women. It's a type of mood disorder of depression. The exact cause, unclear. But you can literally get away with a crime because if you have this, because you're going to have severe mood springs. Empty. You feel empty, irritable, restless, frustrated, and sometimes angry. That's the only reason to explain when women act out. It's not saying it's hormonal, and neither am I. They feel numb, they feel empty, they have low self-esteem. And why did you break up with me? Inadequate. Well, I mean, why do I have to take care of this baby? I've been at work all day. So it's just crazy. The majority of, it said in here somewhere, the majority of women who kill their own children have this. This is a problem because sometimes it is evident, something's evident, that there is a much larger population that experiences depression associated with childbirth than simply biological mothers. Huh. Wow. Sleep deprivation, that might be a problem. Low serotonin, well, maybe they need some reuptake inhibitors. So if it's low, they'll just keep the ones that they have. They don't know how it works, but they say, who cares how it works? It works. Did you ever wonder when you hear cisgender, what do they mean? I know you kind of did, and you think you do, and I thought I did. It describes a person, if you're a cisgender, whose gender identity corresponds to their sex assigned at birth. One example would be someone who is not transgender. A transgender was a person that in their teaching believes it's possible to have been assigned the wrong sex. The blood types, anything visual, nothing matters until later you realize that doctor made a mistake. They assigned this person to be a girl, but in reality, he is a boy, not a she. But if you accept it, then you're a cisgender, because it's the opposite of being a transgender. And it's not like it's only been around a little while. It's been around as long as I've been preaching flat earth nation, golden age past, mud, flood was Armageddon. It's a race to the narrow road. How divided can doctrine make us? Cisgendered, everybody. There you go. It's a refresher. You've been refreshed. You probably want to know how the doctors assign sex. It is the discernments of an infant's sex. Sex being the biological trait that determines whether a sexually reproducing organism produces male or female offspring when they have sexual reproduction. And the male and the female don't gamete to fuse and form a zygote. It makes a baby. Sex, which is reserved for marriage, makes babies. And it has been said to be sometimes enjoyable, as from what I understand. The sex assignment, it continues. In most countries, well, healthcare providers' determination, along with other details of the birth, by law, you have to say, is it a boy or a girl when you give them their money-making scheme and for other legal purposes. You've got to choose one, but it wasn't 2015 you realized, hey, that's not working for this percentage of the people who are maybe born that way because they're like hermaphrodites. There's some confusion about the gender assignment and about this many people. And there's some sort of like confusion. So let's make it universal. Cisgender, sexual assignment refresher 101. And what it actually means, 1 out of, no, I think that's supposed to be the real fraction of 0.002. Okay, yeah, right. So we, depending, how many do we have? 100? Well, if you have 100, then it is 0.002. Now we have more than that. You'll get 0.00002 if you have 1,000. So as you can see, it's going to go up. Pretty sure it's going to go up. It's not very many hermaphrodites out there. It's the same amount of, so this many people out of 55,000 make it to 100. How many 100-year-olds do you know or have ever met? I've seen a few on television, and I know the Rockefellers make it look easy. What is cultura camp? I know it in our language, it looks like culture, but they pronounce it cultura camp. I like culture camp. Who's with me on that? We're going to do it. Culture camp. It was the fake arguments between the church in Germany, which ended up with We like fairy tales about the Aspen Mountains and Heidi living with her happy grandfather. Oh, grandfather, they're stealing me away. Something. I remember something happened. They stole that girl, and she didn't live the whole movie in the mountains. I know that. So, culture camp, the European church said the Catholic Church is stifling our enlightenment. It's stifling the globe. It's stifling compassionate conservatism. It's stifling what Satan wants, nationalism, secularism, liberalism. And these guys wanted to act like, well, we're going to write a law that says now what I say is infallible. And with that law, we'd also like to remind you of this new law. The Virgin Mary was born without sin like her son, Jesus Christ. You have to believe that or we will burn you alive. It was a big deal. It was a rewriting of history. And remember, this Bismarck, these guys were still around when it was like, oh, you need to prop up Hitler? Okay, do it. Use these guys. Act like they're fighting against each other, but they're not. They weren't. What did they do? Well, the culture camp, they said, we've got to kick out the Jesuits. They'll let them back in earlier. They passed Jesuit laws because there had to be a lot of people saying, why are we really putting up with this? It's like the Bismarck's all over the place. First, he wants to fight the Pope. Then he's the first Protestant to ever get some super high honor, mentioned earlier in the first 15 minutes. Then there was, don't even get confused with pulpit laws and other Jesuits, because really, what we know about the Jesuits, who are some of the other people banned besides the Jesuits? I've never taught about the Redemptorists. I've never heard of them, but they were banned too, but maybe you didn't need them anymore. It was this 1865 when he was saying, Virgin Mary is sinless. I am infallible. Blah, 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 blah. They were dedicated to the Pope, dedicated to her and her. Well, I guess they were the ones saying all that time, you've got to declare her sinless from birth. So they kind of faded out. They're banned. Get out, they said. But throwing gang signs. Difference between a Protestant cross and a Roman cross? The Roman cross still has your Lord in their world being sacrificed daily instead of once and for all. I never heard of these guys. They got banned by Bismarck. It was all fake, like you've been cisgendered, like a doctor can't go like, I've tested its blood. It has this many chromosomes. It is a boy or a girl. Definitely. They have to pretend since 2015, we've been guessing. I never heard of these guys. They're one of the fake ones that's been banned. They were around here. What were they trying to do? Oh, they wanted to teach. They were one of those guys going for the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Kind of like she's a sinless thing. Founded here, 1711 is the 290 years before 9/11, which starts the last 45 years of waiting, the last 45 years of waiting for the great white throne of judgment. That's how that would be phrased. Stumbling, but correct. You did it? You look like a child. How can you do a theological thing? Hey, it's Mary Ann. She's not showing off too much of her sexuality. She chases away the Jesuits because this is a Bismarck thing of And it's the Phrygian cap thing. It's you Americans. He liked Marianne. What am I studying here? Is this Marianne or did I get to her yet? Doggone it. This is another one that was banned. They were banned. Expulsion of religious congregations in 1880. So in 1880, they had another one of those things where it's like when they were getting rid of the Jesuits, they had to get rid of these guys because it was going to be like the first fake Napoleon and the second fake Napoleon weren't enough. Well, actually, the first and second republics under Napoleon were supposed to be. This is Napoleon's son, the Third Republic. He did it. He was in on it. It's fake. Collapsed in 1940, so it lasted a while. And they had to expel congregations. So who did you expel? The Republicans? No, not those guys. They had to secularize education. Mission accomplished there. It eventually led to the realignment policy adopted by some Catholics in France to support the French Third Republic, blah, blah, blah. Second Empire, not Republic. Another one of those things where it's like, it's still Napoleon. I'm going to crown myself like daddy. How they could accept it, I'll never know. It was probably because they worshiped her. She was the national personification of the United States, Brazil, France, Thomas Jefferson's friends, those guys. She's the goddess of liberty with the Phrygian cap. Phrygian. I called it Phrygian for the longest time. Who was that? Lisa Button or somebody was all over me. I'm like, I'll look it up. All right. Reason, liberty, allegorical personifications, coffee, more to wet my whistle. National Convention. They want to, because their rebellion had a lot more violence. They don't want to compare it to the United States, but it was the same Phrygian cap, liberty, Marian. It was her. She did it. And the people that worship her, because they're all like worked up into sexual frenzies. And they're going like, look, they even did this. They did it. They dedicated her as a goddess. They believed all these new things. And this was the third year of their calendar. They said, we're not going to do a 7-day work week because that reminds me of the Bible. What did they say about this picture? What is year 3 of the Republic? I'll just give you, we'll do that live from not New York thing. All right. Approved by the plebiscite on the 6th of September. 30,000 electors over the age of 30. So there was a lot of people, and they were all into being millstoned. It ended up, let's kill them all. Let's show them how peaceful we can be without the Bible. And they ended up killing themselves and then others. Everything started out good. And then this is year 3, I guess. And then you weren't patriotic enough, and 3,000 a day off with your head. What's this? I just looked that up. I forget that sometimes it goes backwards. Sometimes it moves Forward. I saw this in a word and I wanted to look it up. A guttural sound.
Ra, ara, ra, ara.
When you say Marianne, the goddess Marianne, they spell it with their pronunciation with an upside down. It's Maran. That's how the French pronounce it. Maran. It's not Marianne like we would. It's Marianne because the first part of the word is go. Why didn't it play? Oh, I hit
Ra, ara,
an. Ra'an.
ra,
An.
ara,
Ara'an. Ariane. That's Marion?
ra,
What a weird
ara.
world. So I looked up Russell's Green River Knives. I don't know if this is a Green River Knife book. So yeah, look, 668 pages. You get to see some old knives. No, this isn't a knife book. This is the hardware book. And it's every doorknob in the world. The Victorian that is in every old schoolhouse. It was at Christian Liberty Academy. This is what was on the Arabia. This is 1930 catalog, but it names them all. And as if what I'm trying, maybe think of it this way. If that museum that we looked at from the steamship Arabia just had those boxes and boxes full of them, imagine what finding their warehouse would have supplied people to keep selling to us today. It's the same thing, making the same money for them, and their lies fill in the blank. That farm park, I looked that up. That's where I got that map. What was the New Life movement under Chiang Kai-shek? While we were going through the 1930s with, hey, everybody that's half deaf from working in steam and, it's cool steampunk if you didn't have to have it pounding in your ears, and no hard hats, no hearing protection, no asbestos protection, nothing. Well, at the end of the night when you go home, don't forget to hold your pinky out because you're responsible for etiquette too. The same thing was going on around the world leading up to the betrayal of China to the communists. They didn't like Chiang Kai-shek.
Chinese people suffered in the streets, and many ordinary Chinese people had simply given up. They have become nihilistic and they had become very cynical. So many ordinary Chinese people in the streets, because they saw no future, because they became so cynical and pessimistic about the future.
Like in the United States, when the veterans weren't paid their bonuses, and then they had a stock market collapse and their bonuses weren't worth anything, and that's why they volunteered to fight a fake World War I to set up. They're in armistice. The war is still continuing, and it's going to get hot someday. Look at that money.
Pursued things like opium, vices, gambling, and other negative personal pursuits. Chiang Kai-shek, being the leader of China at the time and himself being a staunch nationalist, believed that he could save the country.
Now we think of Chiang Kai-shek and the China, the 1920s and 30s, as they wore sandals, beat up rocks, but look at the lifestyle this Ivy League school graduate from China went through. And remember, this was the time of, Charlie Chan, the Chinese man from Hawaii, is the smartest detective and keeps going to America to solve crime.
He believed that he could save the Chinese people by reforming the culture, by changing the attitude and mindset of the masses. Chiang Kai-shek thought that he could promote the moral integrity of traditional Confucian values like propriety, righteousness, integrity, and having a sense of duty to the family and to the country by introducing Christian virtues because Chiang Kai-shek's wife was a Christian and he was under his influence of his wife. Christian virtues like picking up your own cross and enduring suffering in this lifetime, loving one another, having the brotherhood of the church,
He
and
looks
so on.
happy, not.
And also introducing concepts of militarism, which includes concepts like pursuing physical fitness and martial arts. As an ideological
It
justification,
doesn't look like a country.
Chiang Kai-shek
to me.
justified the New Life
Look like China was a backward country, or were they treated as equal?
movement by referring to Sun Yat-sen's speech on the three principles of the people, that the foundation of the country lies in the morality of the people. And to restore the status of the country,
That's all MAGA wants.
it is necessary to first restore the morality of the nation. So starting from 1934 up until 1940 or so, the national government of China used several methods to try to
What about this stuff?
the ideals which may have been very beautiful on paper. The New Life movement failed. The biggest problem was that ordinary Chinese people were just very disconnected from Chiang Kai-shek's ideals because the everyday reality of the Chinese people at the time was just not at the same level as what the ideals of the New Life movement wanted to promote. In the material situation of China at the time, in the 1930s, China was a country facing very severe economic difficulties. The life expectancy was 34 years old. The nutrition, the healthcare, the access to food, the access to basic necessities of life were almost non-existent for the majority of
And
China.
it made them want to smoke fentanyl. I mean, where'd they get that opium again?
People
Go.
for spitting on the ground or whatever. No, instead, you have to use a combination of education, and you also have to fix the immediate needs of the masses first, improve the material conditions of the masses first. But unfortunately, in the 1930s, China was just not at that level. At the time, China was facing a war with Japan. China was in a civil war of its own at the time. China had
Mouse
its economy taken advantage of by foreign powers, and all the ports were occupied.
Weird.
New Life movement failed in the 1930s and did not achieve its immediate goals. The Chinese Cultural Renaissance movement in the 1960s, which in turn resulted in the golden age of the Taiwan popular culture in the 1980s, now has returned to the mainland, right? Many of those Taiwan talents, those artists and singers who are so successful in the 1980s, they actually go back to mainland China now. Now that mainland China has changed, now that mainland China has opened up its doors to the outside world, and now that there's business opportunities, the analects of Confucius. Turning to the media, Xi Jinping said, I want to take a closer look. In 2014, several events also took place which were very symbolic. On May 4th, 2014, during the anniversary of the May 4th movement, Xi Jinping visited the Peking University and spoke with several professors, including a Tang Yijie, a great Confucian scholar, and held a discussion about the classical Chinese schools of thought. On August 27th, 2014, Xi Jinping attended a leading cadre school, which is
Are you getting the feeling that when China takes us over, they're going to impose a Confucius Christian style? Possible. Maybe. We'll see. What else did I study? Chiang Kai-shek. That was interesting. Remember, Mao Zedong was handed it much to the John Birch Society because they worked so hard to prop up Chiang Kai-shek. And now they had to wait till 2030. What is the next election? What is that New Life movement? Oh, they're still doing they're having today, they started in 2002 a public morality day as a loud echo of the New Life movement. Has Paco done it again, or has he going to take any credit. No, the Lord did this for me yesterday in the spirit. And now you know too. So you're responsible for knowing too. Despite it's anti-communist, they're communists. That's why it shared many values and assumption of the Chinese Communist Party. It had that same values, same, let's quit wasting our money. You in America, you wasted all your trillions. So we had to give you fentanyl.
Are performed, you use your senses much more, and therefore more of the brain is involved. So we have been studying with our electroNEDs the pen's potential for learning in the classroom. We have published several studies since 2017 showing that it really is advantageous for the brain. You use your brain to a much larger extent when you're forming letters by hand or when you're drawing. And these publications are open access, so anybody can go and find them online. So what we did in our very first study was to test students, a group of university students, bachelor and master students, while they were drawing words, Pictionary words. So they were presented with Pictionary words such as hedgehog or umbrella. But
what was she trying to prove?
I'm a brain researcher and professor of psychology at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology in Trondheim, where I've been working for the past 30 years. And I'm here to tell you why we remember things better when we write them down by hand. I have been collaborating with my husband for the past 40 years.
Oh, wow. She's been married almost as long as RJ.
And in 2015, we started to interest ourselves to study handwriting and what is happening in the brain, because we have these characteristic EEG.
Whatever. Anyway, write it down. Would you please start writing things down? Some more of how they finish this up. Go.
And most of this inside the Antarctic Circle. But after a circuitous cruise like the above record and a fruitless expenditure of over $1 million, it seems quite natural for them to feel somewhat crestfallen in regard to their previous importunateness with the government. Although the record does not state that they were in search of a South Pole, but a magnetic pole. Yes, and where did they expect to find it if they found any such thing? And what did they expect to call it when found? A suggestion here will do no harm if it does no good. We charge nothing for our advice when it is not followed. The aforesaid expedition could have made just as great a failure with less money. $200,000 or $300,000 expended in sending one expedition southwest of Melbourne and a second southeast. They would end themselves at a distance of 1,000 miles or so, the same as a rat in a barrel, and still find themselves as far from their magnetic pole as the north is from the south, the east from the west, or the kingdom of heaven is from the earth. But in the words of another, we would say, to be looking for a South Pole at the end of the 19th century just because some pagan astrologers conceived the idea of a planet Earth some 2,000 years ago, and men are yet found who pretend to accept this heathen blasphemy, is presumption in the extreme. The ice barriers which constitute the Earth's circumference extend for some 30,000 or 32,000 miles, but present no opening large enough for the passage of a seal or walrus. No alternate.
So if I was Toad House 7, would I come back after 2 years and just act like nothing happened? You were going to take your family to a North Pole and everyone was cheering you on till you realized who's going to take care of my goats and that it was stupid. I am not ashamed that I told you that day when you were on, these three won't be talking to each other in a month. And they weren't. Go, finish me off. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a flat Earth nation. The golden age is past. The mud flood was Armageddon. Obviously. That's why me and my friends will never tell you anything else. We know we're called chosen, elect. We thank God we've been adopted to have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Magabib. Adios.